for clinical translational informatics, science, informatics, and technology. I'm Chris Barnes, I'm the director. So up above there, which you can't see, this is why is there a CTS-IT? And so I'm going to talk about our mission and goals today. I'm going to talk about some of the similarities we are between biostatistics and what researchers need for advanced computational support. And I'm going to talk about the tools and techniques and some of the project management things we do to help people achieve high data quality processing, analysis, and visualization. Our service is centered around providing data management services, scientific computation, algorithm development. So this is us. We're over in the Health Street building and next to the Health Street building, which is really close to campus. We're a diverse team, so you'd think that all of us have degrees in computer science, but that's probably pretty far from the truth. I think very few people on our team. We have backgrounds of people in engineering, mechanical engineering, people with degrees in ecology, backgrounds in mathematics, statistics, and physics. So there's a strong emphasis on people having scientific backgrounds, in addition to having computational skills like being able to program or use R or manage data. Who am I? I'm Chris Barnes. I've been the director for about 10 years now. I've been at UF for about 20 years, and the whole time I've been here, I've been doing some sort of computational consulting. At first, it started out with the Department of Biostatistics in the College of Medicine, and then we moved to the CTS-I with the formation of the CTS-I a long time ago. They set up a service center, so we're a fee-for-service service center. My background is in physics and mathematics, but I've been doing data science and informatics for pretty much my whole career. I worked on pretty large research projects, multi-site clinical trials. I've been an investigator on projects, and so I have a pretty good understanding of clinical research informatics as well as biomedical informatics. And if you don't know the difference between those two, one of them is more patient focused for information in the hospital, and the other one is a little bit more geared towards kind of what we do here with the CTS-I. I like to say, when I explain to people what I do here, clinical and translational research is designed to take basic scientists and clinicians who were never designed to work together, all the computer and data systems that they use that were never designed to interact with each other, and merge them in successfully into one thing so they can all do a project together. Since 2012, there's been a CTS-IT that has served as one of the core service centers here. There's other service centers like the biorepository and the IDR. We're a specialized research support unit. We provide informatics services exclusively. We don't do printers. People confuse us because our acronym has IT in it. We don't do administrative computing. We don't work with PeopleSoft. We don't work with, it's exclusively human subjects research. We deal with clinical research information, PHI, private health information, MRIs, genetics, genomic studies, large data sets, small data sets, wide data sets, long data sets. The idea of people coming to our service is that data management has gotten challenging over the last 20 years, whereas scientists used to be trained with paper lab notebooks, and now science, the volume and the amount of data they collect, wearables, different things has become so extensive that you need people with specialized skills to be able to help you manipulate the data. Biostatistics used to fill this role exclusively back when I first started doing this kind of thing. So in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, your biostatisticians and their graduate students managed all your data on floppies, right? And it's gotten to the point where they have shifted their skill set to do statistics, to do the mathematics behind advanced computation. But a lot of times they need somebody up front to do 80% of the data cleaning, data sorting. One of the studies that I didn't put in my slides today, but I'll just talk about it in brief. Someone just came to us recently. We're helping them de-identify a data set to share with a drug company, a study sponsor. And the data set has something in excess of like 16,000 variables. Right, and so just trying to de-identify that and use the correct approaches on how to do that, how to turn the dates into the number of days since the person enrolled in the study, things like that takes software. Someone has to write custom software to take the thousands of dates and then pinpoint them from the day the person enrolled in the study, and have each one of them be a number of days, so it's not getting outdated services and So we use a lot of like that's an example of us helping create tools or use tools to help people comply with regulatory requirements, right? So it's a regulatory requirement of trying to comply with to not give out information that they don't necessarily need to give out. We're an auxiliary. If you guys don't know what an auxiliary is, we're basically a service unit that can provide hourly rate service. Right now, our rate's $100 an hour. It's probably going to go up in the near future, unfortunately, because of inflation and everything else that's going on. But we try to keep it down, and the CTS-IT helps offset that cost by putting funding into our unit. So probably sometime this coming year, it's going to go up to $125 an hour. We assist faculty sometimes with things like exploratory data analysis. So a lot of times they'll get data sets from the IDR, the data warehouse, and they'll get that as a set of 6 or 8 files that have separate things for demographics, medications, different things for procedures or ICD codes. And so we will help them look at their data, look at completeness. A lot of times people make the false assumption that there's a blood pressure for every visit. That's not always the case. And so we'll go through and give them some basic statistic frequencies, things like that, categories of the different types of variables, so they can start thinking about, wow, my whole study is predicated on this thing that I thought was going to be 100% complete for all the visits, and there's only 27% represented in the data. Did I ask for it not correctly, and it's hidden somewhere else in the medical record, or is it just not available and I need to rethink my hypothesis? We also on larger studies that are multi-year grants like NIH center grants and things like that we participate in, will actually be named personnel grants. So we collaborate as co-investigators or as key personnel. That leads to a little bit of a cost savings because you're making a commitment to keep someone for 5 years. So it's not like a $100 an hour project that we're only doing 10 or 20 or 30 hours on. We support the CTS-IT community. So there's, for example, I think this number is larger now, but my team are one of the only teams around in the CTS-IT community that partners with Vanderbilt that has code commit access. We help them find bugs and develop extensions. I think at last count, we had over 50 RedCap external modules that we contributed that people use. Different things like one of them is the body pain map. My guys a long time ago made a picture of a body that had different areas that had things you can input data and use that as a place to put information into a RedCap. Here's an example of since around the beginning of the CTS-IT here. Where we first installed RedCap in 2010. This is the number of projects created each month. So you can see it's gone up a little bit in the last 13 years. They didn't know if RedCap was going to be successful when we first proposed using it. We were just like, hey, Vanderbilt's doing this, and Carnegie Mellon's doing this, other places doing this. Here's some statistics about our RedCap. I should back up a little bit. I skipped over the fact we run the RedCap service for the university. RedCap stands for Research Electronic Data Capture System. It's designed at Vanderbilt University. Its primary focus is to do clinical research data collection. So it's a system that provides a web-based interface for surveys that can interact with participants, but also case report forms that studies use to do, say, record abstraction from an electronic medical record or various other things that they might collect as part of a prospective data collection. It's pretty widely used. I think I skipped over that slide. It's used all over the world. And it's an open source project free to anyone that's doing unfunded research work, or not unfunded, but that's doing research work, not commercial work. So here at UF, there's about 4,000 projects we have, and 2,500 of them have self-identified as research projects with 972 distinct investigators. There's a population of 3,500 users, and at any given month, 1,000 people are logging on and using RedCap to do data collection. The number of active users each month, again, around 1,000. We've just started recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, charging for RedCap if you use it for over a year. So there's more details about how RedCap works, but basically, people have wanted more services. So, for example, we integrate RedCap with a telephony service. So like to use RedCap to do text message based service, right? Or to do computer aided telephony integration, as an example. And so to offset some of those costs and to add continuing services after the first 3-year of use, if you're going to use RedCap for like a 5-year NIH funded study, we ask for $100 a year. So, and I think it's a bargain because I've used commercial systems from Oracle or other places like that, and it costs big bucks. I think our Encore install here costs several $100,000 a year for the license. So to pay $100 a year, I think is a reasonable cost. Some people don't agree with me, and we get lots of that feedback. $100 is way too much money. The IRB recommends the use of RedCap. So when you apply for an IRB approval for a research study, they ask you where you're going to put your data. RedCap is one of the safe places that you're allowed to use because of all the security work we put in, the security and risk evaluations we've had done by the university, and the fact that it's used by many other CTS-ITs around the country. We have 49 active open source projects that we've created. Those are all tools and modules that we've built around RedCap that we share with the whole CTS-IT community, which is another thing that is kind of one of our missions as part of a CTS-A is to build tools that we can share with other CTS-As to do clinical research. I made a mention of that earlier with the body handout. Some larger clinical trials at different centers that we've supported. We supported the women's ischemia trial to reduce events in non-obstructive CAD or Warrior. This is a nationwide clinical trial with somewhere around 5,000 participants that we helped build all the data workflows for e-prescribing and provide analysis and support for the study team to provide things like reports to their data safety monitoring board. There's the number for the clinicaltrials.gov where you can see details about the study. We've also supported for 9 years at this point, the One Florida Alzheimer's Disease Research Center here at the University of Florida. It's a multi-site.
Is that your instructions?
Yeah, I'm just trying.
Multi-site. If you guys are on Zoom, do you mind muting real quick? Thank you.
That would be the first part of logging on.
So the One Florida Alzheimer's Disease Research Center is a multi-site NIH funded Alzheimer's longitudinal natural history study. And so there are sites here in Gainesville. There's a clinical site at Mount Sinai in Miami, and then there's a clinical site at the University of Miami. It's part of similar to the CTS-A network. There's about 37, 38 Alzheimer's disease research centers around the country. They enroll people and follow them all the way through until they expire, and then they do brain donation. In fact, the meeting I was in before I came here, I told them that I come here till 11:30. We're trying to put together a data set to submit to the National Alzheimer's Coordinating Center in Washington, a set of data on 230 participants that had donated their brains. So the NeuroPath Core has finished doing all their work, and now they have a data set that needs to go into the national data set, and it's our job to help format that and then quality QA/QC it, and then work through that process to get it submitted into the national data set where all 30 centers are donating or putting in their information about donated brains. You Diamond's helping me reshare so that you can use the clicker to work.
I'm not sure.
I'm standing in your way.
If you want, you can stand on that side and then click again. Let's just do a new one. Hi, everyone. Sorry, give me one moment. Let's see. Okay.
There we go. All right, where was I? Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. So during the pandemic, we were one of the first groups to get tapped to help with some of the very first COVID-19 projects. In March 2020, right at the beginning, there was a first responders and frontline workers COVID testing project The Emerging Pathogens Institute here developed one of the first COVID assays to be able to develop to detect COVID. I think people might have forgotten, I forgot until I was reading this slide again today, that in the beginning, there was no test. Right, there was no commercial assay, that didn't come till later. So here in the surrounding counties of North Florida, first responders could come and be volunteered to be part of the research study and get results and find out if they were exposed, not exposed, which was kind of unique at the time. In addition, in April 2020, one of the first in this area, one of the first student and household contact COVID research studies were done. So we helped them create the data collection, tracking, and scheduling. One of the challenges is we had to basically stand up in a very short period of time a sample tracking system. So they had to collect those swabs in the beginning and get them transmitted by hand over to the Emerging Pathogens Institute for their scientists and technicians to take them out and do assays. It wasn't a commercial kind of an in-hospital lab process at the time. So we had to help them develop workflows and process, get the data transmitted back to the clinicians. They would review each result every night and call people and go, hey, you're positive, or hey, you're not positive. And then in May of 2020 through December of 22, my team was part of the UF-wide team that was doing the return to work testing. And so whether you loved it or hated it, we were part of the team that was processing all the lab results and creating automated algorithms that would tell you whether or not you had to quarantine or how long you had to stay out and when you could come back in. And the challenges there were no pipelines that existed. There were no data pipelines, and the data was completely new. Those tests hadn't existed before. And then we were collaborating with the people from PeopleSoft and the people from the ones that run One UF and all the student systems. They had never done medical work before, and there were all kinds of things that we had to work out to keep the barriers so that we were just sending pieces of information that they needed without sending test results. There was a lot of work there. But in the end, I think it was pretty successful. We were able to keep infection rates in Alachua County one of the lowest of all of the places around the country. So for example, during the height of the pandemic, Michigan's health department in the county, they were shut down the University of Michigan. So one of our goals was to not have UF shut down because we couldn't, handle keeping people safe. So I'm pretty proud of the work that my guys did. We're a very small team. As you saw from the picture, it wasn't like we had hundreds of people to throw at this, but I had very smart and dedicated people that were very creative and worked really hard. So where are we? We're in Gainesville. This is my Florida field with the band on. This is one of my favorite shots. But we collaborate around the world. So we've been doing research projects, like I said, multi-site, multi-center, different time zones, things in Europe and UK, things in Asia, things in Africa, for a long time. So how do we do this? We use open source tools. We're not really a shop because a lot of the reasons that we do our work is to collaborate with other people. So we take the mindset that we shouldn't be building tools to collaborate and things that people have to pay for or have a paywall to get. So a lot of the software we write is in things like Python and R. RedCap is in PHP and open source language. A lot of the modules, external things you develop for RedCap are in R. And that way we can freely share it. People can freely use it without having to put on a license. They don't buy. Here's a link to our webpage, and here's my email address. Thank you. I may have rushed through that, but I wanted to leave time for questions. I didn't know how long the format was here.
Yes, so
I'm glad to answer any questions.
So we have quite a few people. We have 27 people here via Zoom. Right now is Q&A time. So if you guys have any questions, please insert them in the chat and we will read them out loud and go over them.
So one of the questions in the chat from Chuck Jacobson. Hey Chuck, how's it going? What open source database are you using MySQL? We were using MySQL, but now we use PostgreSQL. That's not true. I'm sorry. We still have MySQL installation for some things, and we collaborate with UF Health IT that runs a MySQL cluster that they share. But for individual tools, we're either using SQLite or PostgreSQL, which are both open source. How do you get your word out about, I'll answer Chuck's second question, just saying, there was another question about how do we get the word out about our service centers and how do you collaborate? Pre-pandemic, we would go to conferences. There's a annual Red Cap conference every year. We would give talks at various places. We would do things like this. We have our webpage. So that's kind of how we do it. Early on, when the CTS-IT first started, and I mentioned this to Mindy Dunn, we did go around and give a brief version of the talk like I gave. 3 or 4 of us would go once a month to the various departments around the Health Science Center. They usually have a research faculty meeting, so every department typically has a subset of their faculty that are researchers, and they usually have a research committee or a research faculty group that's part of their main faculty committee. And we would go, I think, in that first couple of years, we gave dozens and dozens of presentations. And I'd be glad to come and talk to your department if you guys, anybody that's on the call or anybody here wants us to come over and give a brief talk, or just sit and answer questions in a meeting. Some of the examples. I did not include an exhaustive set of the things that we do. Chuck's question was, what data dictionary tools? So Red Cap is a lot of where we do our primary data collection, Chuck, and it's got a great tool that spits out the data dictionary for any project that's designed. If we have to create one from scratch, it usually starts out as a Google spreadsheet and goes from there. There's a question in the room, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I requested, like I put a voucher, I think, in the website to request like services, but I am not getting in contact with researcher yet. So I was wondering, yeah, if there's another procedure, maybe process I have to follow, because I am really interested in getting your support. I'm a PhD student graduating hopefully this fall, and I'm doing psychometrics analyses, and we can do some.
Absolutely. So I think emailing out any of the contacts here, they get in contact with Mindy Dunn, who's the service center director. She's the one that triages a lot of the service center things. I don't run the voucher process. I just know that people can apply for vouchers to use their services. So that's probably the best place is Mindy Dunn, is to email her and ask her, hey, where's my voucher? Or hey, how do I get connected up?
Mendy said.
Mendy Dunn. I don't know if Don, you might ask Diamond for an email address afterwards.
We'll have it answered in the chat.
Independent of that, you can email me. We could set up a quick Zoom call to have you describe your work to us, and I can help you figure out if there's something to help you.
Awesome, thank you.
I hope I said those loud enough, those questions. Do you offer free consult? Yes, I'm sorry. We offer free consultations for researchers. We help develop grant proposals. I know that was in my slide that I read through really quickly. When in the project life cycle should someone reach out? As early as possible. So your outcomes will be better if you bring us in as you guys are developing your hypotheses, which people that are successful and have been working with us for a long time, they do that. We're part of a collaborative team like a biostatistician. People that get funded and didn't put in enough money for informatics or data collection sometimes have a struggle, because a lot of times when you're developing some kind of aims or methodology, we can give you advice on how to do something that fits within your budget. Right? We may give you some advice on a different way or a different methodology to use that might be more cost effective based on what you're trying to do. So.
And I have a quick follow-up to that.
Sure.
Because you mentioned you do support for grant development. Like, where in that cycle, I guess, should researchers involve you guys?
When you're writing your aims, you should have someone from my team or me help you read your aims and ask you how you're going to collect your data and how you're going to share your data to meet the new NIH data sharing requirements. So. And then we help you work through that process, thinking about how you do that and coming up with methods to do.
And you can see Mindy's email is just entered in the chat, so if you guys would like to write it down, it's there.
What strategy do you have for unfunded projects? You still have to get paid, but student type projects often have $0. So again, we offer some free consultation. You can get up to 2 hours of red cap advice. Taryn's on the call here, and she helps out quite a few people when they're setting up their red cap projects. The best advice I can give is probably to help point people at our voucher system. Other than that, they're probably going to talk to their chair, and their chair will have to look at his donors account. So Lana says, besides red cap and paid consultation for data management, do you have any resources for project management or research program and self-IT infrastructure? What are growing trials programs here at VetMed and hiring, expanding rapidly, carrying out multiple trials in a variety of therapeutic areas? We have helped people. I don't know what that strategy might be now, but we have partnered with people collaborating with the Office of Clinical Research that runs the Encore system. The Encore system itself has tools in it for like subject scheduling, research billing, some of the logistical parts of running it. And so we have collaborated on those types of projects with people. I'm happy to meet with you and talk with you and see where we might have some intersections. No problem. Yes, like I said, our list wasn't exhaustive. I try not to overstate our analysis services, but we do have mathematicians, physicists, and statisticians on staff. So we do perform what I like to think of as exploratory analysis for people and help them try to see if what they're doing is in the direction of where they're wanting to go. We do, and when they're asking for something very sophisticated or detailed, we do ask them to engage with biostatistics as well, but I know the biostatistics folks are busy, and so those can be challenging. So we do help some people with some basic analyses, like some fellows and PhD students we've helped for some of their first tables and stats for their dissertations or papers.
Do we have any more questions in the chat? We'll give it one more minute.
There's Sam Wu. I see Sam Wu there. So Sam Wu is another guy that you guys can talk to for advanced statistical computational type questions. Sam helps run the RDDC for the CTS-IT. We have very similar things that we do, but Sam.
Yeah, let me just comment on what on these research support. The difference I think between the IT group and our RDDC is that we more focus on the statistical aspect. We provide like a study design, trial design, power analysis, analysis plan, those kind of sections on the clinical trials. And then usually along with mostly using REDCap, we also provide data management and then like all the trial progress report. And then once the trial finished, we also provide the data analysis. So our team also kind of provide the like kind of proposal development, especially R1 level proposals for free for the statistical components.
Yeah, I think one of the main differences, because it's for some people, it's hard to see the difference. So Sam said trial design. So Sam would be the guy to help do the power and sample size calculations and come up with the correct type of design you should use for whatever hypothesis you're trying to test. Where our expertise comes in is if you have thousands of MRI and PET scan images and samples and different large sets of data that you're trying to integrate together to give to someone like Sam, and those things require custom programming, custom data pipelines, custom data transformations at speed that need to happen on a daily basis. That's where my team comes in. And Google created a name for this. They call it data engineering. Right. But very similar. But we are not biostatisticians. I was just reading yes, thank you guys for coming today. I really appreciate it. If I do this again next year, I'll get Jen to bring some food. So we'll get everybody in person.
So just so you know, what Jen put in the chat is a recording of this talk will be located on the CTSI website later this week. And we've also been uploading the brown bag series presentations on CTSI's YouTube channel, so you can check it out there as well.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody that came in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.